And if you did want to get a chance to speak, you can fill out one of the yellow cards that's in the back, and you're allowed 2 to 3 minutes to speak.
And can I jump in for a minute? Mm-hmm. And I just want to jump in because I know there's a lot of folks in this room that's been working on this issue of lead. So we're here today to actually try to find out who has what, who's doing what, and talk about where we're going with the city and how we're all going to just kind of try to work together on this lead issue. So I think
we actually have a group of people coming in, so let's give them a few minutes because I know they do have questions. So we'll give them a few minutes to fill out the cards, and then we'll start.
$5. Yeah, it is.
So did I tell you she went to the house? No. So we did until we had more in the bank. She came up to us after and asked us, we didn't know that we were like, not sorry. It's just the boy that's worked kid asked her from the cold side. Yeah, and they didn't like try to have us either. You know,
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started again. So just for introductions, we have Counselor Susan Boyle, Counselor Michael Green, Counselor Steve Thompson. My name is LaToya Allen, and Council President Helen Hudson. First, we're going to get started we'll ask Ken if you can come up and just give us an overview of where the codes, where you guys are currently now with the inspections within the city, and kind of just give an overview for everyone's understanding.
I mean, here or here?
You come up here.
Good evening, councilors. My name is Ken Towsley, Director of Code Enforcement for the city. I guess what I can share with you now is, as of July 1st, we had the new the amended rental registry ordinance, and I can give you an update in regards to what we received, how we started the new ordinance. So back end of June, we mailed out approximately 1,000 letters with applications for 1 and 2 family non-owner occupied. And these primarily went to the South Side, Elmwood, Brighton, and Skunk City neighborhoods. As of Friday, July 20th, we received 331 applications back, so right around 33%, the number we were about at prior to the amendment. But the good news, of that 331, 44 were owner occupied. We verified them. 35 family-based exemptions. 29 did not consent to interior inspections, but 223 of the applicants did consent to interior inspections.
Can you explain what the family-based exemptions are?
If I own a home in and I live in Manlius, if my son or daughter lives in that house, you do receive a family-based exemption.
Okay, and how many were it?
There were 35 family-based exemptions.
35, and what was that last two numbers?
29 did not consent to an interior inspection, and 223 did consent. So of the 223, we have reached out to the owners and scheduled inspections with our inspectors to perform those interior inspections. I didn't get in deep. I'm going to have to get with Sam Perry in regards to what we found on some of those inspections violations-wise. There are some that have been clean bill of health. I'm sure there are some that have interior violations, but I'll get some numbers in regards to that. The do not consents, what we've done is we've done a history check on each of those properties that did not consent to see what violations and complaints we've had in the past 2 to 3 years on these properties. There are some that we've had multiple complaints from the tenants. Those are ones that we will seek the warrant based on the new ordinance to gain interior inspections on.
What are we gonna do with the 669?
So once Leah starts with MVB, we're meeting with her August 7th is my day, our department's day with her. We will do failure to apply violation notices effective up to August 1st. That'll give them 21 days to apply. If they don't apply within that 21 days, depending on how the MVB wants to work it going forward, and I'll have more information after we meet with her, we'll ticket them if they don't apply at that point. And then we'll follow the judicial process through the MVB. So this first 1,000 is our initial, it's our guinea pig. Call it a pilot, whatever we want to do. We want to see where we go with this. And it's good that we've received as many consents. I think that's a good start. The key is going to be now is the ones who did not even apply, how we handle them judiciously.
Were a lot of them out-of-town folks
That applied?
that didn't? Because I know a lot of the ones on the south end are people that don't live here.
I'd have to go and do it and then check to see where those properties are, or the tax address is going. So I would agree, knowing the ones that I've gone through myself on the applications we did receive, they are a lot of local owners. So I think we are seeing good local response. It's those out of states that probably didn't know what we were changing and still didn't comply 7 years ago when we started this program, and they're still not going to comply.
So Ken, you've got 223 inspections to do now, right? And how many have you started doing these 223?
Yes, we have.
And right now we're not looking for lead. We don't test for lead.
We do not test for lead. The only violation we have for lead is that you're not allowed to use lead-based paint.
Right. So, but we do look for chipping paint, and are there other indicators that you look for that would lead you to?
Chipping and peeling paint is the big one, especially around windowsills, on the exterior. That's basically what we're looking for. We will cite them for chipping and peeling paint. We'll also work, I know the Onondaga County Health Department has started using our software where they have lead cases themselves, where they verify that there is lead in the properties. They put that into our software, so that is one of those triggers for us that if they did not consent, that will definitely go to the top of our list to receive a warrant to inspect. So at least we'll know that we have the chipping and peeling paint, they have the lead, so you try to.
So the county has information on properties that are currently have lead?
Yes.
How did they get that information?
Through their inspections.
Oh.
So they perform their inspections, and then if they have a case on a property, they will put it into our software.
And
We have it.
when they inspect, they do check for lead, and they've inspected all these properties?
Not all, no. They base it on the elevated blood levels of children.
Oh.
So when they do an inspection of a home, if they do find it, then it goes into our software.
Okay.
They're not inspecting these same 223, no.
Right. So when you see the chipping and peeling paint and you ticket them or write them up for that, is there a next step as far as pursuing some lead abatement?
Pursuing lead?
Yeah. Like
Not on our end, Counselor.
we can't connect with the county on that at all?
We have performed joint inspections of properties, but I would let the county speak on more. If we sent them all of our chipping and peeling paint violations for every property, I think that would be overwhelming.
Is there
anybody here
somebody
from the county? No?
Deb?
Okay, so if you would like to come up, yes, please.
Hello. Hi. And you can just speak in the microphone and introduce yourself so everyone will know.
You're on camera.
I'm Deborah Lewis. I'm Deborah Lewis. I'm the program coordinator for the Onondaga County Health Department Lead Poisoning Control Program.
Okay.
Okay. And I think so did you hear Councilor Boyle's question as far as what happens after, or how do you guys get the numbers from the homes, and then what happens after? Can you kind of walk us through that process?
Yes. The health department receives requests for inspection, voluntary, from tenants and occupants in rental properties. We also monitor every blood lead test done in every child that resides in Onondaga County, and based on the child's test result, we may be compelled by public health law to conduct an interior inspection and exterior inspection of the property, or reach out to the family depending on the child's blood lead test level. Some are required, some are strongly encouraged, and we do a lot of unit recruitment based on the child's test result. We also get community complaints for conditions that may lead to childhood lead poisoning. So a neighbor may call about work being done on a property next door. A neighbor may call about chipping and peeling paint on a property seized by the land bank. We do get referrals from partner agencies, including the refugee resettlement agencies, our public health nursing teams, Head Start workers going into homes to do intake visits. We get a variety of referrals. We handle them all the same. The inspections that we do are a little different than code enforcement, and they are also regulated by public health law as opposed to building and property maintenance code. So the expectations and the requirements of us are different. When the health department conducts an inspection, they do it with an X-ray fluorescence device, which looks like a price checker gun that you see in the grocery store. They press it against the wall and they measure how much lead is there, and we are testing every non-intact painted surface. So even if there's the smallest chip on a painted surface in a property, we are testing it and we are citing that as a violation.
Do you and you share that information
Yes.
of all the properties in the
It's
city?
direct data entry into the city's database.
Excellent.
Okay.
And Deb, what would the remediation be for this? Say that I'm a tenant, and I call and say, I believe there's lead on my floors
Right.
or on the walls, and you send a crew up, right?
Our inspectors are certified EPA risk assessors. They conduct their investigation and inspection. The owner receives a notice and demand to fix and repair all of the hazards that have been identified, and they're given a date by which they have to comply. If they don't meet that date, they already have a pre-scheduled administrative hearing in front of the Commissioner of Health and or her designee. And the treatment depends on whether we've been to the property more than one time, if it's the first time we've been there. Initially, it is paint stabilization. Abatement is incredibly expensive, as you know, and it is not practical for a lot of the owners that we're working with, but proper preparation of the surface and paint stabilization is expected. If we're going back to the same property time after time, more permanent methods may be recommended or required by the commissioner.
So we're talking about this grant. If the city is approved for this grant and we get back into the business of lead again, which would be wonderful, will we be able to do with our own code enforcement office more lead inspections, or do we still have to get a environmental study done before we can do that?
I mean, I'll let Commissioner
yeah.
Pascal speak in regards to what the old lead department did. But if before we do anything regarding testing, we would have to have
Certified.
all the inspectors certified, trained to do it properly. Eventually, one day, I'd love to say that that's going to happen. It's just a matter of what we have as an ordinance for the city to perform those inspections.
So how will this grant help us then with lead? Will we?
So if we can, we'll have her, you can just introduce yourself and then give an overview of the grant application and then answer Council Boyle.
Sure. Thank you. Good evening. My name is Stephanie Pasquale. I'm the Commissioner for Neighborhood and Business Development with the City of Syracuse. The federal HUD lead hazard control grant that we are applying for, that's due next week, is for $4.1 million over 42 months, which is 3.5 years. $600,000 of that is for Healthy Home Supplement, so that would be for non-lead items related to the health and safety of a home. $600,000. So $3.5 million is for lead remediation. And that's a grant program that we're hoping to perform remediation in 230 units throughout the city of Syracuse. The grant, in terms of staffing or how we're partnering with Onondaga County Community Development, the grant does not allow for a lot of salary funds in order to have sort of a fully staffed program. So we're fortunate to partner with County Community Development, where we're going to each do sort of what we're best at, I think. And for us, we'll get the applications in the door, hopefully in the most distressed areas or areas that need it the most, package those, get them over to the county, and they do have certified risk assessors on staff that would perform the inspections, bid the work out, monitor construction, close it out, and then it comes back over here and we would pay it and monitor it from there forward. So we're not trying to use this grant as an opportunity to staff up. It doesn't allow for enough money, and we don't frankly have the match dollars it would take in order to hire, risk assessors enough that could perform that level of work and testing.
So it's for, is it like you would be the bank for this? The monies would come in and you would be loaning this out or giving this out?
We would pay the contractors directly.
Based on need, and would it be single-family homeowners, multiple homeowners? Would monies go to the land bank? Well,
it does allow for some funds to go to vacant properties. They're really looking for occupied properties with children under the age of 6, and so that's the priority for the program. So it is eligible for homeowners, but we know from all the work we do with Deb's crew that the majority of children that are in rental properties, particularly 1, 2, and 3 family homes, are at greatest risk. So all of these other, it's up to a 4-family building is eligible under HUD's guidelines, but we'd like to target our outreach efforts to those census tracts that have the highest incidences of lead poisoning.
And can you tell me what those tracts are?
I can provide you, we'll get you a map, but it's mostly what's in the neighborhood revitalization strategy area, or the NRSA that we talk about a lot with the block grants. So the Southwest and the Northeast NRSA have the highest incidences.
And what does it figure out to be? Does it figure out to be about $20,000 a house, or what does it, 30, 40, 50?
No, we're hoping to keep it under 20,000 per unit. So if it's a 2-family, you allot for that. But depending on the level of, hazard in the property will depend on what the budget is. So we've been piloting a program with home headquarters. The county's operating this very same program in the city and in the county. So I think we have a pretty good handle on what the costs will be per unit, and any overages we hope to use other funding sources that are available to provide small, low interest loans to landlords if by chance there's more work needed than the grant allows for.
And so this is something that the city has participated in before, correct? So what measures are we going to take to make sure that we can sustain this program this time? Are you guys going to do anything different?
Well, one of the things that's very different is not, staffing up, relying on our own staff and sort of, trying to piece together other administrative funds to pay for staff. The grant only allows for, I believe, 10% overhead. Okay. So I think that makes it successful by working with a partner who's doing a great job and who's getting the dollars out the door. What I think we do well is working with Ken's staff and Ken around identifying those properties that need it the most, perhaps ones that already have other open violations, and really encouraging landlords, both with this carrot, which is the grant, and the stick through codes, to participate in this program. So we're hoping to have a higher conversion rate of those properties that have been identified as having hazards participate in the program. In the past, it seems like it's challenging to get those landlords that are the most egregious to participate, because it is onerous. You have to get income documentation from your tenants, and you have to, there's a lot you have to do to provide documentation in order to participate in the program.
Okay.
Are there enough contractors that are qualified and that would be interested in doing this work? Is that an issue we see, or?
It's something we're certainly concerned about. I don't mean to put Marty Skeen on the spot, but he'd be happy, I'm sure, to speak to how many contractors they're working with on their grant. And again, we're hoping to piggyback off of those efforts. And the more projects we have lined up or out there, I think that also helps to keep the cost down per unit.
Okay. And then I guess from a different perspective, how intensive is the training? If there is someone that's kind of in the business that wants to become certified, can we point them in the right direction of how to get trained to be able to do it?
That's a great question. right now, through the pilot with home headquarters, we actually have 2 landlords that are going through the training because they want to be a certified firm. So it's extensive in the sense that, you know, it's a lengthy training process. You have to keep your certifications up. You don't just get trained once, woo, and you're done forever. You do have to keep your certifications up, but I think for those who own a certain number of units, it might make sense for them to become certified. So we're hoping to expand the pool. We've also been talking with Center State CEO and the Work Train program about identifying this as an opportunity for one of their dual client model approaches, that not just for construction, but specifically for home health hazard remediation, whether it's lead or asbestos or some of these other air quality issues, mold, that we could get folks trained and employed. That's a longer term strategy, but we put it on the horizon so that we can, you know, continue to encourage firms to be certified.
And can I just ask Stephanie, because I talk a lot to the painters, and I know that you could paint, seal it in. So is there a way that we can connect with them? Because I'm sure that some of those folks are certified, because I've been talking to Mike Denz on how we can all start pulling together to try to, you know, touch as many properties as we can.
Yeah, I would love the opportunity to, if there's a group that gets together to talk about it. I think there's a lot of folks who have the one-day training, and many of our staff have it. And frankly, anyone who's working with paint that could be have lead in it is supposed to be trained. All of us, if you're doing home improvements, you're supposed to be trained with the one-day training. However, that a more extensive EPA level firm certification is a whole other, is sort of that next level. So I would love to.
I would think because of what they do, they would probably be already EPA certified, right?
They may be. I'd be happy. You know what I'll do is I'll share with you the website, and if you recognize the names, you would know.
They would probably fall more under the contractors, counselor, than the individuals. You're talking about, Mike, with the apprentices and the painters, right?
Yeah.
That's probably going to fall under the contractors more so than the workers. But it might be an opportunity for him to put that into his training through that apprenticeship as well, to be certified.
No, there is a training component to what the health department does as well as part of our enforcement strategies. Any owner that we cite for lead paint violations is offered and encouraged the one-day RRP training, and they need to provide proof of that training before they start doing the work on the property. The county does have a limited amount of funding, and we do send owners to that training as often as we can. I think last year we probably trained about 80 people.
So you already have the information from the county on the children who live in these houses who have tested positive for lead, and the houses that have been.
I have the information that the properties.
Like a flag on this. And do you happen to know how many of these 223 properties that you have to currently inspect have already been identified as positive for lead?
Not at this time, Counselor. I can get that for you, based on the ones that have consented.
So I'm just one other
I'm just going
question.
to put 2 and 2 together here. The ones that are consenting probably do not have an open lead violation. I mean, I think, but I'll check to verify.
But currently, we don't have any resources to support remediation at all, right? Other than like a home headquarters loan or something. We don't. So this will help us with that.
This will certainly help us, and there's more of a grant component. I think there's more of an incentive, but certainly we've been developing, you know, they're operating a lead-like program with a grant we gave them. It runs very similar to the lead program. The county is obviously helping folks in the city. And then there's low interest loans that people are eligible for. So we'll never say no if someone wants to get this work done. It's whether or not they can afford, if there's a loan component, or if they feel that they can afford the loan component.
Is there a large backlog of properties that you've already cited that you've had to issue tickets to?
We inspect about 300 properties a year. At any given time, there are 100 or so properties open in some stage of enforcement. Depending on whether the property was inspected in the late part of the year, they might have a little bit more time because you can't really paint outside in the wintertime. So it would be difficult for me to tell you how many we have open right at this very moment. This is a busy time for us to get risk reductions done because everyone's finishing up their work and we're clearing a lot of units. But I could certainly come back to you with some additional data on our inspections.
Any more questions from you?
We have support of the federal Catco and Schumer, and we have letters and stuff from them, so. And this is a joint project, correct? Is this?
Correct, and we've gotten letters of support from every level of government, as well as other stakeholders for this grant.
Okay, yeah. No.
Thank you.
I have one other question for the health department. Is every child tested for lead?
New York State requires children to be tested at age 1 and 2. There are special populations that also receive testing at additional intervals. Newly arrived children aged 6 months to 16 years of age are tested upon arrival, and then 3 to 6 months after arrival. So the data that you see when you see numbers about child testing is for every child that's tested regardless of their age. When we break it down to how we're doing with the 1 and 2s that are required by New York State, Onondaga County as a whole does fairly well.
All right, one last thing, and then I'll stop, I promise. Would it make sense for us to send those letters out just automatically to any property that comes back that the county's found tested positive for lead, just so that we could go in there and sort of, because we're going to have access to these new funds?
For the rental registry?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's a non-owner occupied, definitely. I know this week, I think Deb sent over 2 properties that I got the email on, so we'll send those letters out to those 2, yeah. As long as they're not owner occupied and they fall under this category, yes.
Okay. So now we're gonna, if you guys can stay up only, just in case if they have questions, we want to get experts' opinions. First, we're gonna have Aggie Lane, and I just ask that you try to be respectful of everyone's time. So 2 to 3 minutes.
Sure. I'm not sure how much I can add to this, but the Partnership for Onondaga Creek had a grant with SUN 2011 through the EPA, and it was all around lead. It was to educate the community citywide, and actually we worked, I remember, with Deborah back then, and the other half of it was to try to get people in the city, contractors and workers, doing the work. Because at least my research showed that when the city qualified contractors, they had a list of 7. And from what I could see, at least 5 of them had addresses outside the city. My guess, and again, it was a little profiling, I guess, it looked like all the names were sort of white names, even the ones in the city, so I'm not sure. But as I gathered, there were no minority contractors. And when I looked at the requirements to get on that list, the city had a list of hurdles that even the county didn't have. For example, they wanted bonding. And what was it? You needed like maybe 3 jobs under your belt, and you needed to have, I don't know, what the whole bank account stuff. And all I want to say is that if you do try to want to get people in the city doing this work, take a look at that process and try to figure out. So Theartis Martino was trying to train workers so that they could get on some crews. And what happened is the city then lost the grant and all. So I'm hoping you get it, and I'm hoping there's a way to get some people working. Okay?
Thank you. Next, we'll have Rich Pachowski.
Thank you, Counselor, for holding this hearing. A few months ago, there were a bunch of people here talking about rental registry, and they were screaming up and down about including lead inspections on rental registry. I don't know if we got that far. We read about we know a lot about lead from Flint, Michigan experience with lead in the water. I read the daily news. New York City has a real serious problem. They've been going after the mayor about the inspections in the housing authority. 800 children at public housing in New York City are poisoned by lead. I kind of always like Howie Hawkins. He's a guy in the neighborhood. He's well researched. He's been doing some campaigning for governor. He's come out with some interesting things that were posted in WAER Radio's website. A 2016 study of the Journal of Pediatrics found that in terms of percentage, Syracuse youth had the highest lead levels in the nation between 2009 and 2015. 40% of our children in Syracuse have lead levels above the federal standard, 5 micrograms per decimeter in their blood. 40% of our children are being impacted by lead, which causes intellectual flow development, problems with motor skills, memory, and leads to behavior problems. You know, we need to keep in mind, and we need to do more in terms of educating the public in our neighborhoods. We need to start from there, a little bottom up, as I say. Howie also talks about, and this has been battered around and nothing has come about it. I would hope that the council would look at this. You know, secondly, no units should be rented out without a lead-safe certification. There should be some kind of notice when somebody applies for a rental unit that this is a lead-free apartment. I hope we could get some legislation from our council. I see a lot going on in legislation in New York City. I don't see much going on in Syracuse. Anyway, that's my comment. Thank you, councilors. Did I meet the 3 minutes?
Yes, thank you.
I'd like to offer some clarification to the study that was cited. The Journal of Pediatrics published a study that was contracted by and examining Quest Laboratories data. Quest Laboratories is a contracted laboratory that analyzes blood lead testing results collected by the Onondaga County Health Department. No other lead tests from Onondaga County are analyzed by Quest Laboratories. So they have a very, very small sample size collected by the children most likely to be exposed by lead paint in our community. So the statistics that they're looking at is their own data for a very, very small number of children, primarily those tested at WIC clinics by the Onondaga County Health Department, and unfortunately gives an impression that it is unnaturally inflated. That is not true. 40% of children in Onondaga County in the city of Syracuse are not exposed to lead paint. As a matter of fact, in Onondaga County in 2017, 5.8% of children had a level above the CDC reference value of 5, and in the city of Syracuse, 11.1% of children tested had a blood lead test result over 5.
Thank you for clarifying.
Yeah, there was recently in an article in the paper on that, I believe. And could I ask you, what other municipalities were doing the tracking that Syracuse and Onondaga County were doing?
I'm sorry, which tracking are you referring to?
The tracking of the blood levels, so that it could be comparative.
Every community in New York State is expected, every local health department monitors the test results of all children that are
and forwards
collected.
the exact same data to the...
Different counties have different ways of analyzing the data. Because Onondaga County was collecting their own samples from a few folks that didn't have access to a primary care doctor or needed to have an alternate way of receiving testing, we contracted with Quest Laboratory and they analyzed the test results that we were collecting. Other communities test and analyze in-house, or they send it to other contracted laboratories. Some counties don't do any testing, and those the children in those communities go to their federally qualified health center or to their private physician for testing. Local health departments get the results of every test regardless of where the test is collected.
And okay, help me understand. You said ages 1 and 2. Is that where we stop? Where do we stop with testing of these children?
We're required to test at age 1 and 2. Children should be screened for additional risk factors that may require additional testing up to age 6 at every well child visit. Children who are new Americans or children who are adopted from overseas may require additional tests. As I mentioned before, they're required to be tested upon arrival and 3 to 6 months after arrival up to age 16. If a child has an elevated level, they are tested per a schedule determined by New York State Department of Health until their level comes below the required follow-up period for the local health departments, which currently is 10 micrograms per deciliter. Physicians do not stop following their children tested with elevated levels until their test result is below 5.
All right, thank you. Next, we have Afia.
My name is Roslyn, and along with myself and Shiloh, we're from the Refugee Assistance Program to the Syracuse City School District. We were supposed to have some interpreters today who, unfortunately, it fell through. So Afia and Kashindi both speak the same language, Swahili. They're from Congo. They're going to share with you the best to their ability how they feel about the lead poisoning. We've been working with our students, over 80 students, for the past 2 months. About the issue of lead in the homes. So I also have some words from their fellow students if they that I would like to share in lieu of not having an interpreter here, because these were words that were shared with the help of an interpreter. Okay?
Thank you.
Sophia, you can say your name, where you're from, and how you feel about the paint in the house and your children. Okay? Okay. English, yeah, no Swahili. Just try.
Yeah.
Say your name. Right up here.
My name? My name is Afia Nyinamahoro. I am from Congo. How feeling? I am from Congo. You come, Nantes State, December 15, 2015. How feeling? The house no good. The baby, you walk, you take, you eat, you sick. You go hospital, they check the baby, sick, no good. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Say your name, Kashindi.
My name is Kashindi Idi.
Where are you from?
I'm from Congo.
How many children do you have?
Children is 6.
Children. How do you feel about the lead paint in your home?
Painting. Walibomoaga. Swahili, English.
It's okay. I will say her home is part of the pilot program that the codes enforcement had. Omar went to go visit her home, had multiple violations. I'm not sure if all of them have been remediated. The windows, paint chipping around the windows, a lot of issues in her homes. The doors broken, a lot of bed bugs.
Bugs, mouse.
Mice, yeah. So do you mind if I just take a moment just to read what the other?
Go ahead.
Okay. So these are thoughts from all of our students who speak Swahili. They ask that the government of Syracuse enforce a law for all landlords to make all the homes safe for their children. We want everyone safe and healthy. Tenants pay money. We need houses for our families. It makes me angry to think about children are sick all the time. Children have to go to the hospital. Please have our homes checked every month so we know if our children are sick. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, never mind. Malia. Malia. And Halima as well. Is this Halima? Halima and Malia separate? Okay.
Yes, and your daughter will translate.
Yeah.
Okay.
Assalamu alaikum. زه غواړم د امریکا دولت نه ډیر خوشاله په خوشحالۍ سره دلته وخت تیروم
د ما نه بچیان دي او ټول نه دا خواهش کوم چې زه ډېر خوشحاله یم. ډېره مننه د امریکا د دولت نه. د ما کور اوس ډېر ښه ده، زه پکې خوشحاله یم. غواړم چې سواحلي، سومالي، دا ټول فامیلونه چې راغلی که د دوی کور خراب وي دوی سره هم کومک وشي. مننه. یو جهان. تشکر امریکا دولت.
Hi, my name is Maleha. I'm from Afghanistan. I came to 6 April 2017. I wanna begin.
She's speaking on behalf of her mother. This is her mother.
Yeah.
Yes, and this is a daughter. Can you
My mom
translate?
said, I have 9 children. My home is good. I want to be, you can help to the other people who came to America, Somali people, Swahili people, and other people, you can help to other people.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Halima?
Good afternoon. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Hooy ikhyaarta meesha joogta waan salaamay. Gid waan wada salaamay. Marka ilaahay bay tiisatay waxa laga hadlayaa baan u maleynayaa caafimaadka wadanka laga hadlayaa. Marka maxaa lagu yiri u sheeg. maya maxaan sheegaa dee. Hay'ad maya ha weydiineed waan salaamay horta u sheeg.
Yes. So hold on. Can I talk? Let me talk. So she said, thank you very much for having us all here. She feels it's very important that everyone understands how they feel, the new Americans, how they feel.
From Somali.
She's from Somalia.
Marka eed macaan waxa laga hadlayaa bana caafimaadka laga hadlayaa. Marka caafimaadkana waxa weeye annaga gidi Congo Arab gidi dadka yaga yimi oo dhan inaan marka waxaan aragno inaan soo sheegno oo la socodsiino maxay hayto aanu la socodsiino de dadkan meesha ugu nimiyeen soo dhaweeyay weeye.
Yes. Okay. All right. Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. So Halima, I'm going to read this now. Okay. Because this is basically what the interpreter's telling me. Okay. Let me just share. She says, yes, you can have a seat. I feel stressed about how to help my children because lead paint is dangerous. Please assist us with a better life for my whole family. All right. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, put an address on that one. You want to get that sound?
Can I ask Frank or Peter if you can come and tell us a little bit about what you're doing with this issue?
Right here. So, Frank Ridzi with the Central New York Community Foundation. We're the region's largest philanthropic endowment for Central New York. We've noticed that that this is a persisting issue here in our community, and we've made quite a few investments over the years in early childhood education. You may have heard of the Imagination Library books that go to kids every month, and you've been a part of that. Thank you. But with all those investments in early childhood, we realized that this was really undermining that when children are eating and consuming lead. So we've been working with common counselors, Helen Hudson, also Joe Driscoll, also working, collaborating with Stephanie Pasquale and Deb Lewis, and trying to figure out how we, as a philanthropy, can help out. All right, we have different rules than city government, than county government. Our funding doesn't have all of the strings attached that come with EPA or federal or state grants. And so we've been discerning together how best we can support that. So we don't have anything yet to announce other than that we're working with these partners and hope to have something early fall in the form of grants to help do things that will directly affect the lead poisonings in the targeted census tracts that Stephanie mentioned. So those high lead poisoning areas where children are repeatedly poisoned again and again. So, Peter, I'll ask you if you would like to add any more specificity. So, or if you have any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a question for Deb. I'm gonna go back again because I didn't find out until after the fact, when I bought my house, that it was full of lead and asbestos. And maybe it didn't, and maybe it did. Help me understand. I have a son, and he was 7 years old when I moved into that house. And I'm wondering, he went to the doctors, and I don't think they did a lot of lead testing. So I'm trying to figure out, are these children getting repeatedly poisoned because the stock in this one area, we know that it's high lead concentration, and they go from one house to the next, and they're all full of lead. Does that perpetuate the poisoning of these children?
That's a really tricky question. It's very difficult to know if a single exposure or long-term exposure causes the greatest impact on a child. We do know that any exposure is not a safe exposure. We do know that the longer a child is exposed to lead, the more difficult it is for their body to clear the lead from their body after the exposure has been stopped. So, is there a cumulative effect of lead? I think that is your question. Yes and no. There are a lot of other factors that come into it. Some of the factors include the child's general health. What is their nutrition? Are they eating well? Do they have other things that may predispose them to more readily accessible absorption of lead? I think Dr. Weinberger is far more qualified to answer the nuanced question that you ask. But yes, as long as a child is exposed, they are at increased risk of lifelong damage from lead paint exposure, including difficulties with behavior, self-control, loss of IQ, difficulty learning, potential lifetime earning loss, not being able to manage their own impulse control and behavior as an adult. So, the earlier we can intervene in a child's life and prevent exposure to lead, the better.
So, I have a question, not to anybody here, but we have families here that, new families that have come and the agency now you're with? Okay. Okay, and when the families come, they go to Catholic Charities or they go to Interfaith Works, and they get placed in a house or apartment, correct? How do they get placed in an apartment where there's rats and lead hanging off the windows and all this stuff? How does that happen? There is nobody here from the agencies?
Not from the agencies. No. We're actually their English teachers.
Oh, okay.
So this is not
But
theirs.
well, we have been told that there's just limited housing available.
It's bullshit. That's bullshit.
Well, maybe we need to ask when we give them money.
Right.
Right.
And are these houses, are they like through Section 8, or do we know?
Some are, some are not.
Because Section 8 has their own inspections, right? So
Probably not mostly Section 8.
I'm sorry.
Are not? Okay.
No, they're probably welfare related, and that's
But they're
social
just
services, which goes back to what we had spoke about before, placing families, and when you find one that's a structure that isn't really correct, and somebody moves out, somebody else moves in, and it's just a revolving door, so. But I do believe we need to have then the agencies come and explain to us how it is that, you know, they're placed into.
Maybe we should go see a few of these properties that Interfaith Works is placing people.
Well, as you recall, Joe Nicoletti had the property up on Butternut Street. But a lot of those have been corrected now, I know, on the one. But yeah, there are some, and Ken, I'm sure, would take us to multiples. But I'd like to hear from, well, I'll get a hold of Beth Broadwater and
Mike. Mike.
Mike, and find out, how this is occurring.
Because apparently the properties are in these conditions when they move in.
It sounds like it.
How is that even
It sounds like
that they're renting these apartments out to people in those type of conditions? Say that again. Right. Well,
but the agency is placing them in there, so they, you know, it's true. The landlord can get away with it, but they can only get away with it if the agency allows them to go in there.
Right.
If they tell them no, we're not. This is not. We're not putting them in.
Ken, does Interfaith Works ever report properties to you? Do you ever hear from them?
Not to me personally. I'd have to get with my clerks to see if they call and complain about certain properties.
And the same thing with the charities. Do they report?
Once again, it'd be the same thing, Counselor.
Okay.
Rosalind was saying that there's not a lot of places available, but at this time, because we know a lot of new Americans are not entering, but in past years, we've had thousands upon thousands, so the housing was a difficult situation. But at this point, there shouldn't be a problem. Because I know they take into consideration to try to find housing that is near the services that they're renting, which is the north side. So geographically, some are settled on the south side, where there's maybe communities that have already been established in some small communities. It's more spontaneous, people on that side, but generally it's the north side, and that's where all their services are. So given the limited transportation that they're gonna have, so I know that's one reason why they're somewhat limited, but they say that they're somewhat limited. Another is that they have families that have large families, finding homes that can
Accommodate.
Everybody.
makes it a little bit more challenging.
Okay. Good points, but still not valid enough excuses. Yeah. Okay.
You still shouldn't have to go into a place that's
Right.
substandard to begin with.
Right. Okay.
Anybody else?
Any further questions? Go ahead.
Evening, Councilors. Mike LaFleur, Director of NEDA. I just wanted to piggyback off that. We had a similar situation last year at 469, 477 James Street, where we had an issue with the building. And, you know, when we pushed Councilor Carney and Paul Driscoll at that point in time as to, well, if we're funding agencies, whether it's directly or indirectly, why are we allowing this? And at that point, part of the reason was because of a lack of housing. But I think whether there's a lack or not a lack, that's still no reason. We need to rise above that and figure out a better way to do this. Luckily, in that situation, we were successful in shutting it down. But again, that just puts people in another awkward position where they have to accept substandard housing, and that's really, to me, not an option that we should be. That shouldn't be an option. And then just also piggyback off what Frank said, there are a number of organizations, some in this room, some out, that are working together with the Community Foundation on some of the lead programs. Speaking specifically for NEDA, we're in starting the second of a 3-year program in regards to educating people on dealing with lead paint and other environmental issues. And we do have a program which we spoke with Deb a little bit about, where we can actually teach the people, if they attend the class, they get a free certificate to take the RRP training, which is a $300 course. If they sit through a 2-hour lecture that we have, they can go get that training for free. We usually have that once a year, which we'll share with the council. But again, we encourage those folks to take that, whether it's a landlord or even a property manager or folks that are going to paint their house. It just teaches them the right way to do those programs. But I am encouraged because a lot of the agencies are working together to kind of solve these problems and really to work efficiently. And we look forward to whatever programs the city can come up with I think us as a collective and myself with NITA be happy to participate in any of those programs that are being offered.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments?
I just want to thank you for bringing it to our attention. And we're going to continue to keep working on this issue. And as you see, there's a lot of partners around the room. And
thank you all for coming. We can end with that. Thank you.
Thank you.